I'm Helen Norbury, and this is Becoming Unapologetically Me, the show all about authentic self-expression with expert guests from the fields of health, leadership, and mindset. This show is here to show you that you don't need to conform to the expectations that friends, family, and society have of you, and actually what we can unearth when we find the courage to become the unapologetic version of who we are. Grab a cup of coffee and get your notepad out for this week's episode. Hello, and welcome back to Becoming Unapologetically Me. I'm really excited today to be talking to Scarlett Stanhope, aka the Biz Hippie, which is a really cool name, by the way. So Scarlett helps people with their finances and self-worth, which are two topics that I see so many people struggling with. So I just know this is going to be a really powerful conversation today. So Scarlett, can you start by sharing with us what was a pivotal moment or an experience that you had that led you to where you are today and being an abundance coach and really embracing the philosophy of becoming unapologetically yourself?
Yes. Such a great way to start off, Helen. And honestly, I have so many small moments that have contributed to where I am now and the work that I do. But really looking back on this long, I would say 8-year journey at this point of discovering myself was looking back on past Scarlett, who was living a unfulfilled, unaware, unconscious zombie of a life. And in the past, I really was just focused on success and winning and doing it right and being the responsible adult. And so all of the decisions that I had made up into throughout my entire life, up until my young adulthood, was really rooted in how do I win this game of life? How do I do it correctly? And how do I become the person who is doing it well, who's checking all the boxes? And so I really became a pro at shape-shifting myself, kind of chameleoning myself, being a high achiever in a lot of situations and circumstances, and on paper, looking very accomplished and looking like I was crushing it. And in a lot of ways I was. I'm a straight A student. I had achieved different financial goals, like managing restaurants by the time I was 18, paying all of my student loans and having no student debt, paying for college out of pocket, having $30,000 in savings. And yet, at the same time, I was unfulfilled. And quite frankly, I was depressed and suicidal and in toxic relationships and didn't even really realize that something was wrong. I just thought that this was the way life was supposed to be based on what I learned, what I was taught growing up. And it wasn't until I hit a really hard rock bottom that I realized, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here waiting for life to start someday when I've crossed some magical finish line. And yet life is happening right now and I'm the one living it. And so it's up to me to start to take back control of my life instead of passively living my life and start to enjoy my life now and live the life that I want to live and step into the fulfillment today, not someday off in the future.
I so resonate with that. And I've shared my story on this podcast and on my social media about exactly that same journey. You've worked your way up the corporate ladder and you're like, really? Is this it? Surely it should feel better than this and, more complete than this. And why aren't I, what's wrong with me as to why I'm not feeling good about it? So I totally get that experience that you've just shared there. So you mentioned about hitting this rock bottom and then sort of going, hang on a minute, time to make some changes around here and really to rediscover who that core essence, your real heart. During that transformation, we often talk about how that transformation can be messy. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during your personal transformation and what helped you to overcome those?
Yeah. And I think this is so accurate because the beginning of the personal growth journey is really the hardest part. Because for me, it really felt like for many years I had been digging myself into a hole. And I felt like I was standing at the bottom of a pit. And I was just like, I am trapped down here. Like, I cannot get out of this pit.
Someone throw me the ladder.
Right. I had trapped myself in my own life, and looking around, like the circumstances, I felt like I didn't have control over it. So to think of this idea of like, I'm going to take back control of my life, it wasn't like, and then I became magical. And like, no, that didn't really happen. I had to like really crawl my way out of that hole step by step. And it was a very slow and difficult process of peeling away these layers of who am I and what has been conditioned in me and what is in alignment with me and what is not in alignment with me. And how can I, in really small ways, start to be an active participant in my life? And I think that was really challenging for me, was starting to make decisions about my life, because one of the reasons why I had dug myself in this hole was because I was indecisive. I didn't want to make choices because I didn't want to make the wrong choice. And as a result, I just like followed my default patterning and conditioning, which was not set on very great foundations. And so, in order to then take back control of my life, I had to rebuild a lot of self trust and self confidence in myself to then be able to make decisions about my life, even when it felt like hard or challenging or uncomfortable, to be like, I'm going to break up with this person. Like, I had to end a relationship, and that which was like I've never done that before. And I had to like transition out of a workplace. And it was just like starting to make these decisions that used to never feel in my control, but always were. And it was really uncomfortable and challenging, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, I bet. And so, how did your perception of money evolve alongside that journey? Because it sounds like you were quite aware and careful and clever with your money in the early days. The fact that you could pay for college out of pocket and you weren't sort of racking up a whole load of debt. But how did your money mindset evolve alongside that journey? And what did you learn during that time that you now sort of fold into your coaching approach today?
Yeah. And I think this is a really important distinction, because yes, I had good money, like management foundations in a lot of ways. And some people look at me and they're like, oh, you're so good with money. And yes, like that was accurate. But at the same time, the way that I was good with money was really rooted in a place of scarcity and lack and not enoughness. Yes, I was good at saving. And yes, that's like the right thing to do. But at the same time, like I was doing it from this place of like, I was just told to save money and this is like a video game and I'm trying to get a high score. Like that was kind of the vibe. So throughout my journey, it was like really peeling away this identity of success, especially tied to money, because a lot of the decisions that I had made in my life were rooted in money. I was torn in high school between going to culinary school or not going to culinary school. In fact, that was my first choice and first passion. And I like only applied to culinary schools, got into like the best culinary school in America. And then like 1 month before graduating, decided, oh, I'm not going to go to culinary school. I'm going to go to business school instead, because everybody says that culinary doesn't make money and business is more like strategic financially. And I don't want to waste the opportunity to be successful and make money. So when I was discovering who I am and what I wanted, which also included starting my business, becoming a coach, spending a lot of money on personal growth and development, traveling, attending retreats, I spent the money that I saved to build this business. And there was a lot of challenge and conflicts that came with that. I had fights with my family and with my partners who were just like, you're wasting money. I'm really scared for you. Like, get a real job. And so I had to really shift my beliefs and my relationship with money in order to like courageously continue to forge my own path. And also, instead of letting money be the thing in control of me and controlling my life, to start to use my money to create the life that I wanted to live.
Yeah. And I imagine redefining what success looks like as well, because like you say, if it's this video game and you're going up the levels in terms of what's in the bank account, and then you take a different approach and say, actually, that's not going to tell me that I'm successful. It doesn't feel successful. So apart from family who always have their own perception and their views as to what success should look like or could look like for the people that they love the most dearly and they want to protect really fiercely, what ways did the traditional ideas of success really hinder your personal growth? And how did you then change that about to redefine what success looked like on your terms?
Yeah, this is huge, especially in the work that I do with my clients as well, too, is like really redefining success. Because to me, growing up, the idea of success was like a job title, a certain amount of money, some sort of like external validation of, I like have a business card or have this much in savings and I work a job where I wear like blazers and high heels and false eyelashes. That's what I really embodied, like that type of successful like corporate identity. And so then to shift into like I'm a life coach and a yoga instructor, it was very challenging because within myself I didn't really have the belief that this was like a real job or a real career or a legit thing. There was a part of me that believed that it was possible and that I could do it. And I was really following the call of my heart. But at the same time, under the surface, I had all this patterning belief that was telling me, like, this isn't a real job. Like, this isn't a serious thing. People don't know what you're talking about. Who's going to pay you money to do this? And so, really shifting not only my view of success, but also what is worthy work and where can you make money and live?
I really get that. And I have to catch myself with my children who are now teenagers. When I say, what is it? What are your career aspirations? Like, what are you going to do after school? And my youngest in particular is, I'm going to be a YouTuber or I'm going to be a footballer. And I have to catch myself to not go, and what's a proper job? Because totally, I kind of have been through that same journey of going, a proper job is where you're sitting in an office from 9 till 5. And if you're not doing that, then what is this really? And so to really understand that there's so many ways of navigating through life and feeling fulfilled in our career and our professional life, whether that is a 9 till 5 job, which it will be for some people, but it won't be for everybody. And understanding that there's lots of it looks different for everybody, basically, the way that you navigate through your life in a fulfilled way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the important distinction there, and this comes up a lot in the work that I do, is when you're walking this different path where it's different from the traditional view of a job and a career and success. I think it's really important to have the balance of being really strategic and conscious and intentional with your money. And I think that really makes the difference is yes, you can follow your heart and brave a new path. And at the same time, you can balance that with responsibility and aligned structure in a way that actually supports your vision. Sometimes I feel like it's like one or the other. People are like, either I'm really smart and strategic with my money and successful, and I hate my life, or I love my life, but I'm like a starving artist and I'm broke. And I'm like, no, like, what if you just have both?
Yeah, and not and or, but both and. Yeah, absolutely. So the Biz Hippie, tell me a bit more about the name and what inspired the name choice, because it sounds so cool and it kind of sends your brain off in all these directions, imagining what that's all about. So where did it come from and what is the sort of the ethos and the perspective underneath that?
Yeah, totally. And we already have started to talk about it, which is first, it originated from my own journey because I used to be full on business mode and I was really far on that, like kind of aggressive masculine spectrum. And then through my personal growth journey, I swung full on hippie mode. That's when I discovered yoga and then became a life coach and became a yoga instructor and a Reiki practitioner and started attending retreats and like really just saying yes to everything and stepped really more deeper into my true inner woo and hippie self. And then I have been learning through my business the art of really bringing both these aspects together. within myself and saying, when we have this balance of both the biz brain and the hippie self, that's where we can really make a lot of magic. And I also see this as the framework for the abundance work that I do. Because again, you need both. You need that balanced, aligned structure to support the flow, to support the freedom, and to make your best, most hippie life possible. And it's really that balance of the two.
I love that. Really understanding those two energies, whether you call it feminine and masculine energy or yin and yang, understanding that those two energies exist within all of us and how you bring out one side or the other side a bit more at any given time. You touched there on being an abundance coach, and you mentioned previously about how, although you were good at managing money, you very much came from a place of lack. So what are the core principles as an abundance coach that you emphasize when you're helping people to transform their relationship with money?
Yeah. And there's a lot of different components to this and a lot of different ways that we could look at this. But at the foundation, in general, I would say there are three key steps to transforming your relationship with money. And when I talk about this, when I say transforming your relationship with money, the purpose is to use your money to manifest and live the life that you want to live, that your money can be a tool to create your most abundant life instead of being the thing that holds you back from doing it. And that's really the purpose behind doing this work, because money can often be the thing that holds us back from taking the leap of faith on our business, like shifting careers, changing your life in any big dramatic way. Like money is the thing. We put the excuses on money. So first is recognizing your current relationship with money. That's the first step, because your relationship with money has a huge impact on every area of your life. So when you uncover and bring awareness to that impact, that relationship of money, that's when you open up the door for a lot of transformation. So bringing awareness to your current relationship with money, and then starting to shift your mindset and beliefs around money, because that's the foundation. Doesn't matter how much money you make, the way you feel about money is simply an internal situation. And so you have to address the internal first. So that's the first step that I like to talk about. The second step is starting to manage and track your money. And this is important. That's bringing in that masculine side and bringing awareness to your money in this tangible way. Getting your money on paper actually eliminates around 70% of people's money stress. A lot of people are stressed about money simply because they just don't know what's happening with their money. They don't know how much they have or how much is available to them or where it's going. So seeing your money on paper clearly actually enhances your mindset, your beliefs, the way you feel about money, and it starts to give you control and power over your life, because how you spend your money is how you manifest and create your life every single day. And so then that leads into the third step. Once you have this level of awareness around your money, the third piece is to intentionally and strategically spend your money in alignment with the life you want to live. And that's how you manifest the reality that you want to live in, by moving your money in that direction and using your money as a tool to create it and make it happen.
Amazing. That seems so simple, but yet so powerful as well at the same time. That's awesome. So you mentioned at the beginning, like in that first step, how so often you find people stuck in this place of fear, and where money has essentially got the control over them rather than the other way around. So how do you help people to shift out of that fear-based mindset into a belief that they can also have all the abundance that they want to create in the world, and to stop being, I can't move house, or I can't move jobs, or I can't leave this relationship, or whatever the thing is for them due to the fear around money? How do you help them to step out of that so they can even get into these 3 steps?
Yeah. And this is really the most important piece of this work. So, like, for example, when I work with my clients, yes, we do tangible work with money, but we don't even look at your money until after one whole month of just doing deep internal awareness work. Because if you have internal gunk around your money and fear and lack and scarcity and resistance to looking at your money, it doesn't matter if we try to look at it. It doesn't matter if I hand you all the tools to make it easy. It's just not going to happen. So the steps that I use is a variety of deep awareness techniques. And this is really interesting and valuable because when you uncover awareness around your money, what you also are uncovering is awareness around your decision making process in general, how you make decisions, how you make choices about how you live your life. And it's really bringing so much awareness to how you are already creating your reality. And so the tools and techniques that I talk about and that we use to dig into this is first uncovering your scarcity seeds. These are the primary beliefs that are like pretty consistent across the board. There are three primary beliefs that most people have around money that are rooted in scarcity, and that is not enoughness, unworthiness, and what I call starving artist syndrome, which is that either or mentality. Either I'm starving artist or I'm thriving and miserable. And so first uncovering these scarcity seeds and seeing how they're impacting your life currently.
Yeah. I also see a lot of people, which is kind of related to what you just said, who are helping people who are in real need through the business that they're creating, and somehow feel that it's not right to charge people who are, maybe like struggling with trauma or, something like that, and how it's not right to charge people for doing that work. And I feel that can be a bit of a money block as well, quite often.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's one thing that I say all the time is, it makes sense logically what you're describing and what people often experience, which is, oh, I love this so much. Like, why would I charge for it? And I want to be of service. I do it because I enjoy it. But that's from the perspective and the mindset that by charging for it, you're taking something away from somebody. And that therefore you're like doing harm in some sense because you're taking their money. But really, I like to frame it as your price point is actually part of the value that you provide because it gives the other person the opportunity to commit to themselves in a deeper way because you put your time and energy into what you pay for and what you invest in. And so it actually enhances the value of your work and your service. It increases your ability to deliver higher value because you're financially supported and taken care of. And also it increases the capacity for the person on the other end to receive the value as well.
So true. So true. That's such a great perspective. So you talked about using money as a tool to create a thriving life. What are some of the practical ways that our listeners can do that and start taking a few steps in that direction?
Yeah, well, even on a foundational basis, I think just recognizing that your money is already a manifesting tool and you're using it all the time is really valuable and important. Like anything that you're spending money on currently in your life, you are choosing something and manifesting more of it. If you want to manifest more energy into your life, you're going to buy a coffee if that's what's important to you. If you want to manifest more like healthy food into your life, you can do that, right? Like with your money, you are already manifesting your life and your circumstances. So start to recognize, what are you choosing? What are you prioritizing with your money? And is this in alignment with my vision? Is this in alignment with my best life? So many people are spending money unconsciously on things that are not in alignment with their best selves and the life they want to live. So start to peel away those things and just make these subtle tweaks to shift how you're spending money in alignment with your vision, but also to prioritize what you do prioritize in your vision. In your vision, there are certain things that are most important to you. And when you look at how you spend your money, is your money being spent in alignment with those priorities?
So how do you balance that up when the two things don't necessarily match at the moment? So I've obviously got some financial responsibilities, making sure that I pay my mortgage and that I put food on the table. The kids have got clothes, I've got clothes, etc. We've got each of us has financial responsibilities. And on the other side, we've got this life that we want to create, whether that is going on a retreat the other side of the world for 2 weeks and traveling by private jet or not, that's not mine, but whatever your life that you want to create is on the other side. And then we might have a gap between those two things in terms of, I know I have to do this bit first in terms of financial responsibility. This is what I want to create, but the money that's available in any given month is not going to do all of these things. So how do we start to balance that bit up?
Yeah. And this is such a good question because it's really like we can tell ourselves that, oh, I don't have the money to prioritize the things that I do in my vision. Like there's no way I can make this happen. But it's not about the amount of money. It's about the dedication of the money. Because when you spend money in that direction, you're choosing it, you're prioritizing it, and you're affirming it with your money. And your money's just an expander. It is the affirmation and it is the creation. So just for example, a story for me is when I first started my business and I imagined what success looked like to me and being incredibly successful, part of that vision of success is being a philanthropist. And I said, I'm going to be so wealthy that I can give money to causes that I care about. So for the entire length of time of my business, even when my business was negative, even when I had to work a restaurant job to pay for my business for multiple years, I donated some money every month to causes that I cared about. And it wasn't a ton. It wasn't like I was $1 million philanthropist building villages in places that needed it, but I was still affirming my vision and still choosing my values and my priorities and saying, when I'm successful, I donate. And therefore, I'm going to donate now, even if it's $2 or $20 a month. And so starting with any amount, and then as you manifest more and more money and are able to more easily adjust your priorities and invest more and more into that area that's in alignment with your success, it's going to increase and expand.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I totally get that. So what advice would you give to someone who's listening to this and they're like, yeah, but you don't understand my situation. I'm stuck where I am. I want to live my best life, but I'm in this really difficult situation and I can't get out of it. What would your advice be to them?
Yeah. And I can understand what it's like being in that situation too. Sometimes when you're in it, it's really hard to see outside of it. It's like when I was in that pit, you have a very small view of the sky. You can't see the whole world really, because you can just see that circle sky above you and the world looks small. So I get it. And also, the most important thing is to recognize the impact that your relationship with money is having currently, and also know that you can start to shift this in small ways. And even if you can't see the big picture of fully stepping into your vision, fully living your best life, it's possible for you right now to feel less stressed about money simply by starting to shift your money mindset and by starting to manage and track your money and see your money really clearly. The foundation is you can't change anything if you can't see it clearly. So bringing awareness to the internal and the tangible aspects of your money is going to give you an amazing foundation and starting point for you to then build from.
Yeah, that's so true. And, in business, we'll look at data on the different areas of our business that we want to improve. And yet when it comes to our personal finances, so easy to sort of brush it under the carpet and not kind of lift up and look in detail at it. So yeah, so true to kind of gather the data so we can make some informed decisions.
Yeah. And I know that that's like the scariest part too, is to look at it. It's the hardest part. But once you do it, you're going to feel so much better. Even if your financial situation doesn't change, it will change everything.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you start to see let's call it areas of opportunity. Like, oh my goodness, how much am I spending in this place? In fact, I had exactly this conversation with my daughter last night that she just likes to, oh, can we just go to the shop and get something? And I said to her, do you realize how much that adds over a week or a month when you're doing your shopping in like one lot? And then you just pop to the shop for this and you pop to the shop for that and you just go for this and you go for that. By the time you add up all those little shops that are only a few pounds each, by the time you add them all up over the month, it's suddenly a big number. And we have to really watch those sort of almost unconscious spendings that, because they can have a big impact overall in the picture of things.
Totally, totally. And it's not like you can't do the things you want to do. Like, of course, you can find ways to do maybe go out to eat once a week, or, you can find ways to prioritize them, but you have to do it intentionally and strategically. And you can't do that if you can't see what's happening with your money.
For sure. So you mentioned just a little while ago about the philanthropy and giving even when you didn't necessarily feel that you could afford to give, but that kind of really leads nicely onto something I think is particularly relevant for women about how embracing your personal abundance can then translate into a positive impact within your community and within those causes that are most close to your heart. So you've spoken about your personal focus on philanthropy, but how do you see that in a more general terms for all of us in impacting our communities positively through our own abundance?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And one is it happens in so many ways when you do own your power, because then you're bringing the gifts that you were meant to bring to the world, right? Like you're here to fulfill a purpose. And as part of the complete cycle of nature, you're here to give something and you're also here to receive something. That's what makes nature's cycle complete. I like to tell my clients about like trees. Like trees are here to absorb our carbon dioxide and put out oxygen. If they were like, no, I'm not worthy of receiving your carbon dioxide, like we would all die. So that's one piece of it. But then the other piece that is so important and that I'm so excited we get to talk about on this podcast is all of the work that I teach my clients how to do of managing their money, getting in control of their money, stepping into their abundance, owning their power, owning their worth. All of that leads to being able to have a massive positive impact on the world with the power of your money. Because again, your money is a tool for manifestation and creation, not just your life, but also this world that we are living in right now. It's easy to feel like looking at the world circumstances, you're just one small drop in the bucket and you have no power and no control. But the truth is that every single drop in that bucket matters and makes a difference. And every time you spend money on anything, all the time, you are choosing something. You are saying yes to that thing. And you are also saying, more of that, please. So we can look at the world's situation and recognize the ways in which we are all collectively creating it in some form of another. And so the greatest impact that you can make in the world is to really own your power, own your worth, especially the power of your money, and to spend your money intentionally in alignment, not only with your best life, but the kind of world that you want to live in. And when we all do that, that's when we change the world.
100%. There's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it goes something along the lines of when good people have lots of money, great things can happen. And I really, really believe that, because you and I know we're going to use our money in a way that can benefit not just us, but the generations coming after us and, the world as a whole. And surely that's only a good thing, therefore, that we can create more abundance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, this is true when you have a lot of money and you're a good person, but it's also true no matter how much money you have, because it's just those small tweaks. We think like, okay, I'm going to buy the cheapest thing just because it's convenient. But then you're also saying yes to a lot of things that you might not be in agreement with. And so just starting to make small shifts here and there. And honestly, I think it's kind of a lie and a fallacy that the most affordable thing is like also the worst morally conflicting option. Like I found time and time again that I can say yes to the things that are so in alignment with me. And it's actually the more affordable option all the time. So start to look for those opportunities that are really in alignment with you and what you believe in.
Yeah, amazing. So, what are your top recommendations for resources, books, podcasts, anything like that that's really influenced you on your journey, your coaching practice? What inspires you?
Ooh, okay, this is fun. So, number one book recommendation would be The Soul of Money. So much of my work is really built on the foundation of the philosophy and the principles talked about in that book. It's also a like required reading for my students as well. So like everybody who goes through my program reads that book. So that's a really, really good one. Another good one would be Existential King, which is yes, that one's really good. I also have my clients read that as well, which that just presents a different layer of the internal coaching work of, being in control of your life. And I think there's a lot of different components that you can use and a lot of different tools to bring in that self-awareness and be in control of your life. And the Existential King version adds like an extra magical layer on top of it. So that one's a really cool one as well. Yeah, and then in terms of podcasts, I do have my own podcast. So, I mean, that's a source that you can use if you want to check that out. That's Empowered and Abundant Podcast.
Yeah, we've got that on the show notes too. So, yes, definitely people can find that.
Those would be some of my go-tos. Like, highly, highly recommend giving those a read.
Amazing. So what's the legacy that you hope to create through your work with the Biz Hippie and your advocacy for becoming unapologetically yourself?
Yeah, I think there's multiple versions of this. There's the like small, just looking at myself version and kind of the part of me that's like, okay, well, even if I just did that, it would be good. And that looks like living my best life, which I am truly doing. It's not always magical and rainbows and butterflies, but when I really zoom out and look at the life I get to live and the life I've been creating, 100% getting to live my best life is the number one thing that I get to create for myself, my family, and also to share that message with the world, with my clients, with anybody who comes across any of like me and my content and my marketing, to really share and spread the message that you can live your best life. It's possible for you to live your most abundant life. And it's possible for you to do that and be financially supported at the same time. And again, the bigger legacy of that is I truly, truly believe that when we all live our most thriving and abundant lives, when we feel financially supported, when we feel financially confident and financially free, and we're able to do the things we want to do, we're able to say yes to life, that's when we transform the world in a big way. Like the whole entire world transforms when you say yes to being who you're meant to be, becoming unapologetically you, living your best life, and proving that gets to be the reality. And I think that that just has a ripple effect on the whole entire world. And I honestly believe that's the trajectory of our planet.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you with that. So if you had just one final sentence or brief couple of sentences to say to our listeners as their main takeaway from today, what would you like that to be?
Yeah, I'd love to let you know that abundance is possible. No matter where you're at, no matter what your financial situation looks like, no matter what life circumstances you have, no matter how deep in the hole you feel, it is possible for you to live a fulfilling, thriving life that you enjoy with money supporting you and helping you to create that life instead of holding you back.
I love that. It's such a powerful message and such a powerful reminder for everybody because it's so, so true. And we sometimes forget that in the weight of life, with that all on your shoulders, sometimes it doesn't feel like that is always possible. But I've loved this conversation and such a inspiring and uplifting way that you approach the conversation of money. And thank you so much for sharing it with me and with all the people listening to this episode as well, because I think it helps to really change people's lives and is a core element of them becoming unapologetically them.
Thank you so much for having me today, Helen. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Becoming Unapologetically Me. Make sure you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts so you never miss an episode.